This video is sponsored by RustOleum Canada.
Hello, my furniture friends. Welcome back to Salvaged by Kay Scott. I found this little mid-century modern chest of drawers at an estate sale just a few doors down a couple of weeks ago, and I only paid $5 for it. I sort of felt like I was stealing it as I was loading it into the car because I never find furniture that cheap anymore. But the gentleman who was running the sale actually told me that after 3 full days, I was the only person to inquire about this thing. I think because it is all dark brown and it's missing some of its hardware, it just faded into the background and no one even saw it. Never mind considered taking it home with them. But that's about to change, and this thing is about to get a makeover. I love the lines on this piece. The curvy top drawers with the rest of the really clean, straight lines are classic mid-century modern design. The top and sides of this chest are all laminated hardboard panels that are tacked onto a solid wood skeleton underneath. And speaking of that frame, I'm gonna need to fix whatever's happening here. The original hardware is missing from the top drawers, but I do have all 4 of these gorgeous pulls from the bottom. This one was just missing a screw, but I'm sure I've got a replacement for that. Although the sticker on the back says American walnut, that's just the name of the pattern, not the actual material on here. This wood grain is not real, so sanding and staining just isn't an option. It's sort of like a paper sticker of a picture of wood that's been stuck to all the different materials underneath to make it look cohesive. In between that sticker and the substrate is this pretty brown primer layer, so I'll definitely need to clean all of this overspray off of the dovetails. But from here I can see that these curvy drawers are made with plywood, so again, probably not an option to sand or stain those either. I might be able to get a real wood accent out of the bottom 2 drawers though, because I have a hunch that there's some decent maple hiding under there. I'm going to start by pulling out all the drawers and making sure that all of their parts are in good working order. It's pretty common to see wood runners like these that are chipped or split or even just missing a screw, but these all seem like they're nice and solid. And the nylon guides that hold on to those runners on the back of each drawer all look good too. It looks like there's a few screws that have already been replaced, but I don't think I need to swap anything out for now. There is a good amount of dust in here though, so once I get the rest of the handles off, I can get started on cleaning. This mean green is a heavy duty degreasing cleaner that's gonna cut through any old furniture polish residue or just the general grime that's on here, because trust me, furniture is never as clean as it looks from afar. And most of those really popular spray-on furniture cleaners and polishes have oils, waxes, and silicones in them that can cause major issues with new finishes adhering properly if they're not removed first. A clean surface also helps your sandpaper last a lot longer if you happen to be sanding back to bare wood. And unless the cleaner that you're using specifically says it doesn't need to be rinsed, make sure you go back over everything one more time with some clean water to get the rest of the soap off too. So I think for this separated corner, all I need to do is kind of bang this back up into place. It looks like I never remember what these are called. This little crimpy bit has just slipped down. So I'm gonna put a little bit of wood glue on the top where the laminate meets the wood board, hammer that back where it's supposed to go, and then put a clamp on it so it all stays together while the glue dries.
These are the new handles that I'm going to use to replace the missing originals on these top two drawers. I think the style and the shape of them fits really well with the originals on the bottom drawers. I am going to have to do something to get the golds to match a little better though. But I need to drill new holes. The original hardware holes are a really awkward size that I couldn't find a match for. And because these drawer fronts are curved, I can't use any of my hardware templates or jigs to help me figure out where to make my new holes. So I'm gonna have to eyeball things and make it up as I go along. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a mistake. And I'm gonna do this now so that if I do drill something in the wrong spot or need to make some adjustments, I can fill that in and hide it under my new paint job and not have to worry about messing up a fresh paint job all the way at the end of my project.
I'm off by like 1/8 of an inch. Okay, just as anticipated.
Okay, get these back off of here and then I can fill in the old holes and my misfires and move on from there.
This is a 2-part epoxy style filler where you have to mix the putty that comes in the can with a little bit of cream hardener that comes in a separate little tube. And once they're mixed together, it causes a chemical reaction that solidifies it. I really like using this stuff to fill in old hardware holes because it's super hard once it's cured and it's not ever gonna shrink or crack on me. Another big selling point is that it really only takes a few minutes to dry, so I'm not wasting a ton of time waiting on it and I can keep going with my project. This is set and ready to sand now, so I'm gonna pop a fresh 120 grit sanding disc onto my orbital sander so that I can get those repaired spots nice and flush to the rest of the surface around them, grind all the brown overspray off of the sides of the drawers, and see if I can completely remove the faux wood grain from the bottom two drawers. Hopefully there's something good under there. These are bare now, so I'm switching out to a finer 180 grit, and I'm gonna do this sanding by hand just to make sure that I keep everything going in the same direction as the grain and I can buff out any little sanding swirls that were left by the coarser paper and the spinning sander. Usually 180 is as fine as you wanna go if you're planning on staining wood because it feels nice and smooth, but it still leaves the wood pores open enough to accept a stain. I popped the same 180 disc onto my sander too so that I could smooth out the little raised areas on the top and any of the chips and dings around the edges and just scuff up the rest of the slick surfaces a little bit so my primer layer has a bit of texture to really grab onto. Now that I've got the floor masked off and the dresser propped up, I do think I need to add a little more filler to this seam around the top, just so it's not noticeable under the paint. I'm also going to mask off these drawers so that I don't end up making my own overspray mess on the interiors or the sides. I've personally never been a fan of painting my furniture with the drawers still inside the cabinet, but if that works for you, go for it. This takes a few extra minutes to get ready, but it's what works for me. If this isn't your first time here, you know that I almost always prime before painting, and I almost always use this bin shellac-based primer. I'm using a spray can today, but I usually buy the big gallon-sized can of this because I use so much of it, and apply it with a 4-inch roller that I can toss when I'm done, because cleaning this stuff up is a bit of a pain. You can clean it up with denatured alcohol or ammonia. I just don't like doing it. It bonds really well to most surfaces, and most paints bond really well to it. So it's great at giving you that extra level of adhesion insurance on surfaces like this that have a reputation for not always holding paint well. It also creates a nice kind of candy coating over all the different textures, like the existing finish, the spots where I've sanded back to the MDF underneath, the wood filler and the bare wood, so that when I put my paint on top, everything looks the same and the paint isn't being absorbed into the more porous areas while sitting on top of the others. And again, this dries super fast. Let's do a quick scratch test to make sure that this primer is indeed stuck. Seems good, but I'm gonna give this a quick sand with some 220 grit this time, just to smooth out the sort of rough texture that it's dried with. Okay, my primer is silky smooth and everything is dusted off, so now I'm ready to move on to paint. And today I'm going back to a tried and true product that I'm gonna say is largely responsible for getting my whole furniture flipping business up and off the ground, RustOleum Chalked Ultra Matte. This paint is so versatile. You can use it to create a really textured, artisanal finish. You can distress it back really easily to expose previous layers underneath, or like I do most of the time, you can use it to create a really sleek, smooth, modern finish. You can brush it on, you can roll it on. I'm going to be spraying it today since we all know spraying is my preferred painting method. I love this stuff. This is the color Oat Latte, which quite frankly sounds delicious right now, but I have used this paint on a ton of furniture makeovers over the last 8 years, and I love the results I get with it every time. Like the name says, it's a chalk style paint, and one of the best things about it is how forgiving it is. You do not need to be a professional to get really great results with this stuff. It goes on really smoothly, and it's pretty fantastic at sticking to stuff all by itself without the primer step most of the time. If you do end up with brush strokes that you don't like or even drips in your paint, it sands so easily to the most velvety feeling surface. It gets fantastic coverage, and once again, it dries really fast, so you can knock out your project quickly. It is a little on the thicker side without being a super thick paint, but when I spray it, I do like to add a few splashes of water to help it go through the nozzle a little easier, and I'll just shake this up right inside the gun. I always test out my spray on some cardboard first to make sure the right amount of paint is coming out and that it's not too splattery, which can happen if it's too thick. And when I'm happy with that, I can move over to the dresser and paint away.
It's not too humid today, so I'm gonna guess this is gonna need about 2 hours to dry before I can put the next coat on, but looking good, drying down already.
Same procedure. After about 2 hours of dry time, I sprayed on a second coat to fill in any bare or light spots and then left it all alone for a few more hours. The second coat of paint is fully dry now, and I kind of can't believe how buttery smooth this feels. Usually, no matter what kind of paint I'm using, I will do one final sand before I put any sealer on with a fine grit, like a 320 or 400 grit, just to knock off any little dust particles or imperfections that have dried in the paint. But honestly, I don't think I need to do that on here. I can't feel any little nubby bits. So I am going to empty the rest of the paint out of my spray gun, give that a rinse through with some warm soapy water, and then I'm ready to top coat. I'm going to use this water-based diamond wood finish in a satin sheen because it gives really incredible protection to painted surfaces, and it stays nice and crystal clear over lighter colors like this. It's not going to change the color of the paint at all. I don't think I want a true satin sheen on here though, so I am going to mix a little dollop of the paint right into the poly, which will tint it, but more importantly, just tone back that sheen a bit. I do this a lot when I'm top coating darker colors to help prevent streaking or hazing, but it works for this too. I'm going to strain this mixture into my cleaned out sprayer, test out all the settings one more time because this is a much thinner consistency than the paint was, and then I can get a few coats of this put on. This has a 1 hour recoat time, and I will give this a light scuff sand in between coats to keep it super smooth and make sure that each layer bonds to the previous one. Because chalked has that soft porous finish, it does need to be sealed, especially on high traffic pieces like this dresser or tabletops or anything that's going to get daily use so that it doesn't scuff or absorb any stains. Okay, let's get this project finished up. I need to put some stain on these two bottom drawers, and I'm using Verithine's water-based stain. I had this mixed in the color Sandstone, which is a really nice, rich, warm tone that I think is going to pair really nicely with the oat latte. And then I need to clean up and use some spray paint, I think, to match the original handles for these bottom drawers to the new ones that are going on the top. Since this is a water-based stain that dries a lot faster than a traditional oil-based one, I spritzed a little bit of water over the wood first to help keep things from drying too fast on me. And I'm just going to brush the color right on here and then wipe off the excess, keeping everything moving in nice long strokes going in the same direction as the wood grain to prevent any weird streaks. I've already given these a clean with the same mean green that I used on the rest, but I'm just going to give them a light scuff sand to remove any of the little raised bits of corrosion. They're not brass, they're just like a steel or pewter cast metal that's got a gold metallic finish over top, which has rubbed right off on a lot of different places, so I don't feel bad about spray painting these at all. This antique brass spray paint feels a little too dark on here, so I'm kind of mixing this lighter copper shade in here too, just misting both colors of spray paint over all the hardware one at a time until I get a color I like. To seal up these drawers, I'm putting on a couple layers of the same Varathane diamond wood finish that I used over the paint. I just poured some out into a separate container though, in case my paintbrush picks up any of the dye from the stain, so I don't end up accidentally contaminating the whole can of top coat. I think everything is dry enough to reinstall the hardware, and then I just need to move this inside to show you what our new design looks like all pulled together. These lower end laminate mid-century modern furniture pieces have all the great style of the time period, but since they're lacking some of the more desirable materials like the high-end wood veneers and designer name stamps, they make great canvases for updated painted finishes. I kept this one really neutral so it's easy to work into a modern home, but it still keeps that classic MCM silhouette and vibe. The warm wood accents and the mix of original and updated hardware give it such a unique look, and I don't think I'm gonna have any trouble finding it a new home fast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me through this flip. If you enjoyed the whole transformation process, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what I'm working on next. And if you've got an MCM piece waiting in the wings, hopefully this gave you some ideas. I'll catch you all next time.